Jacob, are you pondering what I'm pondering?
I think so, Drew. But wouldn't more already disappear out of the holodeck?
I think the only thing holographic is your brain. No, you fool, we're going to review an animated movie on this here podcast.
Brilliant! No, wait. Why would anybody want to listen to two geeks like us?
Because, you fool, these people are so very easily entertained.
Okay, Drew. Narf!
Hello and welcome to another episode of The Cellcast. Joining me today is a man who is the vengeance. He's a man who is the night. It's Jacob.
Why, thank you. I'd like to introduce our co-host, a man who just can't wait to get back to his girl, Hazel. Welcome, Drew.
Well, what can I tell you? Harley just done left me to go hang out with the birds of prey. What am I supposed to do?
I don't know. And for the first time, we actually have a special guest.
Indeed we do.
All right. And so, to introduce the bearded knight, the man who is a little brother to me and has the body of a bison. And
there are inside jokes being made that I do not get.
Sadly, neither do I.
Let me introduce Jim Heron. He's creator and our sister podcast of the Movie of the Week podcast, and he's also got a slew of other things he actually does work on. Welcome, Jim.
Great, you've already confused me with your brother.
Yeah, I'm Jim. Thanks for having me. Long-time listener, first-time caller, podcast host. We'll see. Either way, good to be here. Excited.
So, tell us a little about yourself.
As
or about you and your creative endeavors, I should say.
Yeah. Well, as previously stated, I work on a podcast with these guys occasionally, once a week at least. It seems like Movie of the Week podcast. You can find it at Movie of the Week podcast .transistor.fm. I'll mention that again later.
Yeah.
But I also do a little webcomic, and a little bit of this and that. So.
All right. So I do have a few questions for Jim. I threw them at him earlier, but a little bit to get our audience to get a little bit more, maybe your animation side a little bit.
Okay.
So what was the first movie you saw in theaters as a kid?
Which isn't one of the questions he asked me.
No,
earlier,
I didn't.
But that's
but it is one both me and him have answered on the show.
Well, the first animated film I saw in theaters was Land Before Time. I think that was also Jacob's.
Yes.
Big fan. Remember that. Remember going to Pizza Hut and having all the extra stuff we got with that. Ducky puppets, etc.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, that one.
All right. So what was your favorite cartoon growing up?
It's a toss-up. A huge part of me wants to say Ninja Turtles, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles of the 80s, 87 to be specific. And then but then again, a huge part of me is a diehard Thundercat fan. So that's my big two. I couldn't really tell you for sure which one's better, but they're great. So those two. Okay.
And third and final question. Besides the movie we're reviewing now, what was the most recent animated movie you've seen?
It's Batman Hush.
Batman Hush?
Batman Hush. It's good. I have another one sitting on my shelf that I'm waiting to watch too, which is the new Wonder Woman movie too. So the new animated. Yeah, because I love all the DC animated stuff. They're fantastic.
All right.
Good deal.
So, Jacob, what have you been watching?
What have I been watching? Well, I had the chance to. Well, obviously on YouTube, there's tons of things you can watch, and one that I found absolutely hysterical was this one little. Merry Melodies, I think I'm saying it right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Merry Melodies.
The more expensive of the two, because they're both technically owned by Warner Brothers, but Merry Melodies was the more premier side of things.
Yeah. So apparently this was for the newer Looney Tunes.
Okay.
It was for and it was called, what was it? Daffy the Wizard. It was basically Daffy Duck. Apparently, daydreaming, he's a wizard. And it is animated so beautifully. And it's like, oh my gosh, can we get a series of this? I know it's Daffy Duck, but still, it's incredible.
Well, Daffy Duck has been funny a lot of times. So.
Oh yeah, he's funny as can be, but
Is there any rogue, mops and buckets and
no, there's
none
not
of that going on in there?
No, no, just Daffy being Daffy.
Okay.
Okay.
Other than that, I got to watch a premiere of a little short for the little hometown I'm from and Jim's from,
And that I moved to.
and that you moved to. It's basically for a contest with GTV. Thank you, HGTV. And it's just basically to be like, hey, if you got towns that are this size and have some problems and want to fix things up, make a video. And they did. It was absolutely incredible, and I enjoyed it. And the theater itself was packed.
All right.
Yep. So
Sounds like it's a good thing I didn't try to get in there, because someone who really wanted to see it more than me would have not been able to get in.
I got you. All right. So that's all I've had the chance to watch. How about you, Drew?
What have I had a chance to watch? I realized that there's no way on earth I can make it through 2 seasons of Star Wars The Clone Wars before the new episodes come out on Friday.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of going more of a... I'm hoping I can just start at season 7 and not be too lost. But I'm eventually going to go back and finish and get caught up completely, because then at least, things will merge better, hopefully. But I've watched a little bit more of that, and I have also got back to watching more Phineas and Ferb because I just love that show.
Ah.
It's just a fun show I enjoy watching. But yeah, that's pretty much all I've had a chance to watch.
All right. Good
Outside of course, this movie. What have you watched recently, Jim?
Well, recently I watched a little bit of Gargoyles because I
excellent.
love Gargoyles.
Classic.
Which season?
First season. We're just getting back into it. They released it on Disney.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I watched a couple episodes with
So
my wife the other day.
the cut-up pilot, essentially? Cut-up pilot movie?
We watched, I want to say we watched 3 or 4 episodes, so we got past that. But yeah, I love the intro. They should just make a movie. The first movie, all it needs is the first 2 episodes of the show.
Yeah.
Well, if I remember correctly, when it was first released, they... like the first 4 or 5 episodes, because it's all one story,
Right.
Yeah.
was one movie.
Yeah.
And I remember
Yeah.
seeing it on I had I rented the VHS once.
That's cool. I didn't know that.
And it had a little stupid little thing at the end for like a board game, which made no sense.
Yeah.
But I think
But-
I think they could literally take the until they get to the when they first get turned to stone forever or whatever, and end there at the end of a movie and leave everybody hanging. I think would be fantastic. And then they could do another movie afterwards.
What I remember is that it went from it was that whole beginning part plus all their dealings with
Xanatos.
Xanatos, who I still think of as Riker, because it
Right.
is Jonathan Frakes.
Yeah, there's
And,
a couple Star Trek people in there.
Couple, yes.
Yeah.
Quite a few.
And it goes until they finally leave the castle and go hang out on the clock.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Which I own I own the first series on DVD.
The first season.
First season. That's
Me
what I
too.
mean.
Yeah, I own it.
this is America, not Britain. Our seasons, not series.
Yep, that's true.
Whichever.
That's true. I also watched Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yes.
I think y'all did as
Yeah,
well.
that
We
was
did.
fun.
That's fun.
I got to watch. What else did I watch? I watch a lot of TV occasionally, so I watch a lot of regular episodes, like everything from medical shows like Grey's Anatomy to sitcoms like The Connors or whatnot. But as far as animated stuff, I think that's it for the moment, including this. I hadn't watched
All
anything lately. Hush being, I think, a week ago. So
Oh, okay.
All right. So, what we got in the news?
All right. So what do we got on the news? We actually got quite a bit, actually. All right. If I get my phone ad correctly. All right.
Sorry, new toy.
I got you. All right. So G-Kids and Phantasm Events will be bringing Children of the Sea, the latest feature of for Japanese Studio 4, which brought you titles such as Mind Game, Animatrix, Batman, Gotham Knight, to be to U.S. selected cinemas this spring.
They do good animation.
They do.
Batman Gotham Knights is a great series of shorts if you've never watched it.
I didn't like it. I think the animation is interesting, but I did not like the stories and stuff.
Great stories. I mean, it is interesting to watch.
Sure. As far as the DC animated movies goes, it's bottom.
Well, this was before the real big push.
It was just at the beginning. They'd only done a few.
They weren't really sure what they were doing yet. But still, I thought I enjoyed it.
Yeah. It's not
especially
horrible.
Bad Iron Man.
Yeah.
All right, so if you're interested in seeing this film, I think the trailer is up. It's been released as of recently. The movie will be premiered on Monday, April 20th in an English subtitle, on Wednesday, April 22nd in English dub. And to give you a small synopsis of what the film is about, when Rhea was younger, she saw a ghost in the water of an she saw a ghost and where her dad worked. Now she feels drawn towards her father's former place of work and two mysterious boys she meets there. They were raised by Dungus. I might be pronouncing that wrong. And hear the strange calls from the sea as she does. Riku, I believe it's Riku. Riku's dad and the other adults who work at where he worked are only mildly aware of this, and basically it sounds like a very interesting fishy movie.
Okay.
All right. Speaking of everyone's favorite Speedy Blue Hedgehog, apparently his movie's doing very well in the U.S. box office. The live action hybrid film of Sonic the Hedgehog has brought in $3 million in 350 theaters on special Thursday night preview. Also estimated to hit $70 million in 4 days. Expected to be the $50 million, setting a domestic opening record for the big screen video game adaptation for 3 to 4 days. Sonic grossed 3 rings in the tune of $38 million by Monday night.
Okay.
Pretty sure most people remember Spies in the Skies came out earlier this year.
Yeah, I never got around to seeing it.
Yeah, so apparently it's going to be released on March 15th on 4K Ultra HD, Blu-ray, and on DVD. And so if you're interested in that, go pick it up. All right. And so we bring to our last little bit of news, and I think for any 80s kid to be like, this is exciting. All right, so Netflix and Mattel Television announced Friday that the all-star cast of the upcoming Netflix anime series Masters of the Universe Revelation, based on He-Man, Skeletor, Teela, and the other iconic characters from the Masters of the Universe franchise. Animated by Castlevania Studio Powerhouse Animation, Revelation will focus on the unresolved storylines of the classic franchise, picking up where the animated series left off decades ago, with all-star cast of Mark Hamill as Skeletor, Lynn Hedgel, I might be pronouncing that wrong, as Evil Lynn, Chris Wood.
You gotta love a name like Evil Lynn.
Oh, yeah. Chris Wood is also known for his Superman and the Vampire Diaries as Prince Adam, a.k.a. He-Man. Sarah Michelle Gellar will be playing Teela. So Liam Cunningham will be playing Man at Arms. Stephen Root will be playing Cringer. Cringer's got a voice.
Well, Frank Welker probably wasn't able to be there.
No, probably not.
You did leave off Kevin Conroy, I believe.
No, he's in here.
I'm trying to look up the name you mispronounced because I know who it is, and I think it's like Lena Headey.
Yeah, thank you.
Lena, she's dead.
No, from Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones, thank you.
And I cannot pull up the thing on my phone.
Okay.
All right. Anyways, it's Alicia Silverstone, Justin Long.
Oh, Batgirl's in this?
Yeah, Batgirl's in it. Phil Lamar, Tony Todd, Cree Smith, Kevin Michael Richardson, Kevin Conroy, of course, and Harley Quinn Smith.
Okay.
Yeah, I saw her name on the list, and I was like, I don't know her, but apparently her parents are DC fans.
Yeah,
Which is what it sounds like.
And also, Kevin Smith is heading the project.
That's good. Kevin
Yeah.
Smith is a great director, producer, whatever he's involved in it.
All right, so that is the news in a nutshell.
All right, then we'll move into our spoiler-free review section for Batman: Mask of the Phantasm. Jim, what are your thoughts?
Well, it's a good movie. It's something that everybody who liked the animated series should definitely watch.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's kid-friendly, but it's a little dark, so you might want to preview it before you let your kids watch it. That would be my advice on it. And yeah, go watch it if you haven't, or if you have, you should probably watch it again anyway. It's fun to watch.
Okay.
That's the best I can give you.
I enjoyed the movie also. It was not, and admittedly, I did remember seeing this, 30 years ago when it came
theaters,
out?
yeah.
I didn't get a chance to see it in theaters.
It was good in theaters.
I'm
I
sure
think
it
I
was,
saw it in
but
theaters.
I didn't get a chance
That would
to
make
watch.
sense you would watch in theaters.
I didn't get a chance to watch it in theaters simply because I didn't. I saw it on, ironically, the same night I watched Back to the Future for the first time because we rented it. And I remember that's the first time I watched this movie, and apparently I retained very little information, but I did know, a lot of stuff I did remember. It's not what I think of when I think of a superhero movie, but it is a good Batman story. It's more like it's more of a detective story than I would say most superhero stories would end up being, and I think it actually works better than it would if it was just a straight up superhero story starring Batman.
Sure, and the argument could be made that Batman's not a real superhero. He's just
True.
a very good hero, but he's not super powered. So, I mean, he has money.
Money is a superpower.
According to Iron Man, right?
Exactly. So, Jacob, what are your thoughts?
I enjoyed this movie. It was a lot of fun. The just brought back a lot of nostalgia for me because I remember watching on TV as a kid when this came out, and it was a lot of fun. Very, very dark story for a Batman animated series, and that show was dark already, but this was dark, and I enjoyed the crap out of it. It was so good, and yeah, highly recommend it.
Alrighty. So, I guess we will now move into our spoiler-filled section. We'll see you on the other side. The following is a spoiler-filled review for the movie Batman: Mask of the Phantasm. Listener discretion is advised. Batman: Mask of the Phantasm was directed by Eric Radomski and Bruce Timm. Eric Radomski was the supervising creative director on many Marvel animated shows, if you can believe that.
Oh.
And of course, Bruce Timm, by making Batman the animated series, became the creator of the entire DC animated universe.
Yep.
Which is mostly what he did from when I was looking through there. Plus, I know he did a couple of the more recent DC straight-to-video stuff,
Yeah.
too. It was written by Alan Burnett, Paul Dini, Martin Pascoe, and Michael Reeves. Alan Burnett was a writer on many of the Disney afternoon shows such as DuckTales, Tailspin. He did an episode of Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers, I saw. And he was the writer on DuckTales the movie Treasure of the Lost Lamp, which we'll have to do at some point. Paul Dini went on to write Hulk and the Agents of Smash and Ultimate Spider-Man on Disney Channel.
Good shows.
Mark Pascoe was the story editor on The Tick.
Okay.
For a time. That was the funniest one I saw there. And of course, Michael Reeves went on to write for Gargoyles.
Oh.
Yes. Show.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
Batman, of course, was created by Bob Kane and Bill Finger. Not that Bill Finger is credited in this, because this is before they started doing that.
Yeah.
But I'm being nice.
Bill Finger. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Music was by Shirley Walker, who wrote the music for the original Flash TV series, which predated this.
Didn't know
With
that.
Mark Hamill.
Yes. With Mark Hamill as the trickster. We'll
Yes.
get to that. And I saw an interesting thing when I was going through the credits on this, because I saw a name. I thought, surely this is not the same guy. But the synthesist artist was Hans Zimmer.
The same?
The same Hans Zimmer.
That's cool.
So I had to bring that up because I thought, okay, that's cool. He worked on this before he went and wrote new themes for the Snyder versions.
Interesting.
The cast includes, as Bruce Wayne / Batman, we have Kevin Conroy. As Jacob mentioned earlier, in the upcoming Masters of the Universe Revelations, he is playing Merman.
Mm-hmm.
Andrea Beaumont was played by Dana Delaney, who went on to play Lois Lane in Superman the Animated Series.
And almost everything DC makes. She's kind of the most popular Lois Lane in all of the DC animated. She's done a lot, but she also did like Body of Proof, where she played like the lead in that as Megan Hunt. She was on Desperate Housewives. She was on Castle as Agent Shaw. She's in Tombstone. She was Josephine Marcus in Tombstone.
Really?
Yeah. She's been in a lot.
All right.
Interesting.
Arthur Reeves was played by Hart Bochner, or is it Bochner? I think it's Bochner.
I'm not certain. I think you're right the first time.
Either way, he is most famous for playing Harry Ellis in Die Hard.
Oh.
Yeah.
Which, if you don't know who that is, A, you've not seen Die Hard.
Yeah. What's wrong with you?
He's the guy. If you have seen Die Hard, it's just skipping on the name. This was the guy who tried to pretty much sell out the entire company to the villain. I can't think of his name.
He was just trying to make a deal. That's all he was trying to do.
He was trying to help Alan Rickman.
Yeah.
He's the quintessential 80s douche.
Pretty much.
For lack of a
Pretty
better
much.
term.
Yes. Arthur Reeves. Sorry, I said that again. Stacy Keach played the voice of the Phantasm and Carl Beaumont. And the main thing I saw that he was in was in the Planes spinoff of the Cars franchise. He played Skipper Riley, apparently the main character in that franchise's mentor.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he plays a lot of bit parts in regular sitcoms and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
He plays a lot of dads and grandpas. He's a good actor, though. So
he was perfect for this role.
Oh, yeah. Perfect for this.
Oh, yeah. Salvatore Valestra was played by Abe Vigoda. If you've ever seen the television show Barney Miller, he plays Detective Phil Fish. And in The Godfather, he was Tessio.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's been a while.
Chucky Soul, which is a great name.
Oh,
I'm just going to say that right now. Chucky Soul was played by Dick Miller. And in the first Terminator movie, he played a pawn shop clerk.
Oh, I guess he's the one who... No, was that where he bought the guns, I guess?
I think so.
I guess that's... Yeah.
It's been too long since I watched The Terminator.
Mm-hmm.
I only saw it recently because I had to watch the new one. So I watched it in in Judgment Day before I watched it.
Buzz Bronski was played by John P. Ryan for his 3 lines. And he was pretty much an extra in a lot of stuff. He had a lot of bit parts, so not a big role there. Alfred was played by Ephraim Zimbalist Jr. And the coolest thing I saw is that on the 90s animated Spider-Man series, he played Dr. Otto Octavius.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
He's Doc Ock.
That's fantastic. I knew he was Alfred, and that's really I thought he's always been one of the best Alfreds, but I didn't know
He's
Doc
Doc Ock.
Wow. Okay.
And he's
range there. I didn't expect.
he replayed Doc Ock up until the 2000 Spider-Man video game. They, of course, did not use him in Spider-Man 2 because they had Alfred Molina.
Right.
Mm-hmm. You did an amazing job as that character.
Love Molina.
Commissioner Gordon was played by Bob Hastings. And the coolest thing I saw is on the television show The Munsters, he played the Raven Clock.
Huh.
Well, on The Munsters, instead of a cuckoo clock, they had a Raven Clock who would pop out and say, "Nevermore," and some other little stupid jokes. But yeah, that's Commissioner Gordon, which I find hilarious. Detective Bullock was played by Robert Costanzo. In Total Recall, he played Harry. And in Die Hard 2, which I believe subtitle is Die Harder, he played Sergeant Vito Lorenzo.
I don't remember off the top of my head.
I don't know either. I'm just assuming he's a guy on the police force.
Yeah,
but he was Harvey Bullock.
Yeah, there you go.
And of course, last but most certainly not least, we've got Mark Hamill.
What has he done? Has he ever done anything?
Yeah, well, he in this movie he plays actor. In this movie, he plays the Joker. He is in the upcoming Masters of the Universe Revelation. He is playing Skeletor. In Transformers: Power of the Primes, he is playing Megatronus. It's a weird name.
Well, it's Transformers.
It's Transformers.
Yeah.
They just add
I'm guessing it's just Megatron, but worse.
Robots in disguise.
And then, of course, he is Luke Skywalker in Star Wars. He played Chucky in the most recent Child's Play movie.
I still have to watch that.
He is the trickster in both Flash television series.
Yes.
And he is this week's Kingdom Hearts reference, as once again he played Master Ericus
Okay.
in Birth by Sleep and Kingdom Hearts 3.
Now I've actually been on your podcast. I was going to say, if that doesn't happen,
Yeah.
I'm not in an episode. That's going
But
Sure.
unfortunately, this is a repeat one
I'm sure.
because nobody else in this was in Kingdom Hearts. So yeah. Anyway, that's the cast and crew of this movie.
All right.
It's a good cast.
So when we're talking about numbers, all right, the movie was released November 25th, 1993. Had a budget of $5 million. Its opening weekend was $1.89 million. Its U.S. and worldwide release was $5.6 million. So it came up a little bit short. Or it actually made its budget by barely. That's all I've got.
That's all you got? All right. Well, let's go into the synopsis right quick. A mysterious entity known as the Phantasm is killing some of Gotham's gangsters and accidentally framing Batman for it. As Batman investigates this, he runs into his ex-fiancée, Andrea Beaumont, and which brings back memories of his first year before he actually put on the actual Batman mask while he was still going around looking like a gangster. Or not really a gangster, a thug,
Right.
we'll say. Running around in a ski mask. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
And
At least it's not a hockey mask.
yeah, and we get some of that retelling of that bit of story. At the same time, we are seeing gangsters being killed left and right, scaring Salvatore into going to do the thing no one in their right mind should do, deciding to go hire the Joker. But says an interesting line that the Joker's hands are just as dirty as any of theirs. And so the Joker plants a trap for Batman, but ends up seeing the Phantasm. And because apparently the Joker is a much better detective than Batman, puts two and two together and realizes that the Phantasm is in fact Andrea Beaumont. Spoilers, which were in that section, but I don't care. And but Batman finally figures it out when Joker says, "Oh, I thought I was getting toots." And so Batman goes to where Joker is hanging out to stop Phantasm from killing him because she's not going to be able to kill him. And Batman and Joker have a good fight out, and yeah, that's pretty much the movie.
In Batman's defense, love is blind.
Yes, I'll grant you that.
Maybe that's it.
All right. So, Jim, what was your first like of this movie?
Okay, so we're going good first.
Good
All right.
first. Yeah.
Let's
we
see.
go good, then we go bad.
Okay. My first.
You take the good, you take the bad, you mix them all together. There you have the facts of life.
Yeah.
One of the things I really like about this film is even though it's attached to the animated series, filled with characters from it, filled with voice actors from it, it stands alone. It doesn't have to have... You don't have to have watched the animated series to get this at all.
Right.
It's a self-contained project. We get all the backstory we need. It's entertaining, and there's no need to go... I mean, you're not sitting there wondering, well, what did I miss? What am I not getting? As opposed to a lot of movies that are based on a TV show where you really have to watch it. This one, you could literally just go watch the movie. And I think that's really one of my favorite things about this.
Okay. Well, I do want to bring up one thing that in my research, basically I did all my research via YouTube for a certain YouTube channel called Watchtower Database. And these guys are nerdy nerds about the DCAU.
Sure.
And break down everything about the DCAU. And according to their research, now they might be wrong, they might be right. But when you said it's a standalone movie.
Yeah.
According to their research, it actually fits in about halfway through season 1.
Well, yeah,
I
mean,
could see that.
Yeah,
'cause-
the main story, not the flashback.
Yeah.
Sure, and I get that. What I'm referring to is that while it fits well within the animated series, it
Right.
doesn't feel like you're away from it. You don't have to have watched the animated series.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, as far as trying to make money goes, it's a genius way to go.
Oh, yeah,
You
absolutely.
don't want to make something that everybody's going to have to go back and watch the cartoon. You want the
Yeah.
parents to be able to get the movie. You want the kids to be able to get it, even if they've only occasionally seen the show.
Right.
Or if they've not seen it at all. And that's why I think it's so great, is because you can go in, get your popcorn, sit down, watch the movie, and it has. I didn't have to go back and watch the animated series to get all the stuff. I mean, I've seen probably 90% of it, but I had no reason to go back and read a bunch of stuff. I just got there and watched it, and there's nothing where I'm going, wait a second, what's that scene about?
Yeah.
And that's one of the big things I like about this movie.
all right.
All right. My first like about it is actually the flashbacks.
Okay.
The flashback scenes of like young Bruce Wayne and just returning to Gotham, falling in love with what's her name?
Andrea
Beaumont.
Andrea, falling in love with her and wanting to break his promise to his parents, be like, I'm falling in love, be like, I don't know if I can do this anymore. And it's really touching that the man be like, he has devoted his life to vengeance and becoming,
The Knight.
the knight, literally becoming the knight. And he falls in love, and now he's torn. He's torn between this, and it's really moving. It's really moving. And there again, using my information I got from Watchtower Database, they put these scenes between like 1984, I believe, putting the movie around the movie continuity. Thank you. Somewhere between 1993 and 94. So that's a really interesting, very fascinating that like Batman at one point may have never became Batman because he fell in love.
Yeah.
So yeah. What about you?
My first like of this movie is the fact that it is a non-traditional, quote-unquote, superhero movie. I know there can be, like we talked about earlier, I know there can be some argument as that Batman's not actually a superhero
Sure.
because he doesn't actually have
He's
superpowers.
as super as you get otherwise.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he is the world's greatest detective. If that's not super-ish enough for you, I can't really help you.
Yeah.
But
Sherlock Holmes is not a superhero either.
Yeah.
how do you know? Just
Because
because he was created before superheroes doesn't make him not a superhero.
Yeah. Plus, you don't want to tangle with him in a dark alley.
But
Yes.
anyway,
You're tearing up
Anyway.
in 2 ways a Sunday.
we can
I
argue that
can't
later.
help it if Sherlock Holmes doesn't have a cool car.
It takes you got to have a costume and a car, and he does not have either.
Really, because Superman don't have a car.
He does too.
Oh yes, I forget the '60s when they had to make toys.
Hey.
It's the same reason Spider-Man has a buggy too.
Hey, that buggy's awesome.
I didn't say it wasn't.
And if there's no buildings to swing off of, how does he get across the beach? By car. Dune
I'm just
buggy.
saying. In a recent movie we just watched, that
Ferris
showed
Bueller through the backyard.
Ferris Bueller through the backyards, which was great.
Yeah.
Because if this was a superhero movie,
Yes.
here's what would have happened: the Phantasm would have been the bad guy, and it would have just had your friendly neighborhood Joker as a special guest villain.
Right.
Yeah, pretty
who
much.
Batman probably would have to protect, which, admittedly, not a bad concept for a story.
Yeah.
I think it's been done many times.
Sure.
But that's not what this is about. This is not the villain. The fact that there is a villain just gives Batman somebody to fight at the end.
Right.
Because this is not about him fighting the Joker. This is not one of the Joker's mad schemes going amok. This is somebody's killing gangsters. One of those gangsters happens to be the Joker before he became the Joker.
Yeah, that was
Which I do love Proto Joker. That's a great model design.
Oh yeah.
This is about Batman. This is about Bruce Wayne.
Yeah.
Let's forget that. This is Bruce Wayne. I know there's the whole thing where technically Bruce Wayne is the alter ego to Batman because all that mess. This is the original Bruce Wayne getting up into Batman's life and dealing with the fact that he did fall, like you said, did fall in love once, had a love, and then she had to leave for reasons Bruce Wayne had no way of knowing about. And with his broken heart and recently discovered giant bat cave
Yeah.
that was found the same day he decided to propose, which I thought, gee, that's not convenient.
No.
Not convenient at all. And yeah, it's the fact that we do get that pass, like you said, and that it's about Batman and the Phantasm herself dealing with this past that they had together, and the fact that Batman's actually, I think, doing a better job of handling that grief than I think she is. Now that's debatable.
Sure.
Granted, but let's face it, Batman's not going out and killing all the people who killed his folks. She is.
Right.
Yeah.
This story is very much the hero versus anti-hero story, you know, and then this has been done in Batman the Red Hood.
Yeah.
You know, where we find out that Jason Todd is the guy killing people and being the hero / bad guy, whatever. And several other stories where they end up finding that this anti-hero, sometimes a villain, is not a bad person. But they're, you know, but they have a reason for doing it.
Yeah.
And then you
Their
see
motivations.
Right. You get the dilemma as the hero. What all should I do? What can I do? Am I a good hero at the end of the day? And it's definitely because of this movie, we get a lot of other movies that do the same thing, I think, in the animated DC, and many others, I'm sure. But it's very good in that it's not a traditional superhero.
Now, I will say, as a kid, and a little bit on this viewing, the fact that Batman didn't go fisticuffs with the Phantasm was a little disappointing. But in retrospect, as an adult, because I guarantee as a kid, I thought the movie was probably stupid because they didn't fight. But you know, kids are when you're a kid, you're stupid.
Sometimes, yeah.
Yes.
The Joker.
I kind of understand where we're going. And plus, we get a great Batman Joker fight. So, I mean, who's really complaining?
Yeah.
So, anyway, Jim, what is your second like?
Okay, let me pick. Hold on. I think I'm going to go with the fact that it happened. The fact that this movie got made is my second like for this. We're talking about in an era when we already have most adults won't see an animated film because they go, that's a kid's movie, unless they're taking their kids. We've seen that change at least a chunk, our generation, and a little bit before, a little bit after.
Right.
I mean, if that didn't happen, this podcast probably wouldn't exist.
For sure.
Probably not.
But at this point, we get a DC product, which is an animated series already, turned into a theater film. Something, a big picture, not something you get on DVD, which there's plenty of those for every TV show. And again, just like a lot of them, they'll just box some episodes and throw them on DVD.
Oh, yeah.
Or VHS at the time.
Yeah, because technically when they started, they were going to do directly to DVD, VHS.
Right.
But at the last minute, like the 11th hour, they told the animators, oh, yeah, we're getting a bigger budget. It's going to theaters, so widen the screen out.
Right, which I think will explain some of the little errors I'm sure we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
But the fact that this happened is what led to so many great products. And again, I know I keep touching on them, but the DC animated films are superior in almost every way to the live-action DC movies. There are a couple of good ones, for sure, and people can argue back and forth on whatnot, but most people who watch them and watch the DC live action will say if they could just do the DC animated movies but live action, we would have better product. This movie is the forefather. This is, even though it didn't make a lot of money, broke even pretty much in theaters, lost or gained a little bit, and then we're talking about some DVD sales and VHS sales at the time too, I'm sure. It wasn't a big moneymaker, but it did show that they could make better animated movies, and there's an audience for that.
Yeah.
Not just, let's throw together a quick home movie, but we can make a good one, even if it doesn't go to theaters, put a decent budget on it, and people will spend the money because they're looking for good content. And I think that's what this did.
Jacob, what's your second like?
My second like would actually be the Phantasm herself. Interesting fact, kind of a pop quiz, be like, who was the Phantasm designed after?
The Grim Reaper?
No.
Are you talking like a
Are
character?
Are you talking about Andrea Beaumont herself, or
No,
the
the
character
Phantasm.
design of the Phantasm?
The Phantasm. What, like, which
The
character
Punisher.
was she inspired by?
I'm not sure where we're coming from, so I'm going to let you just tell me.
Okay. Yeah. Actually, Mysterio, actually.
Okay. Makes
Oh,
some
I can
sense.
see that.
For sure.
Yeah, because apparently there was a rumor going around for years because there was a Batman character called the Phantasm for years, and it was just like apparently it was this character with a skull head and what have you, and so fans speculate, be like, oh, this is what this character based off, but apparently Paul Dini, I believe, had brought it up that it's like no, he's based off Mysterio, or it was Bruce Timm, whoever had said it, but it's either way. The Phantasm, I find, is a very compelling character. Definitely so Andrea Beaumont, like, she falls in love with Batman. Her father is kind of a crooked man. He makes a deal with the wrong people and has to run. And then winds up dying, and then she comes back to Gotham many years later and seeks revenge about those men that led to her father's death. Mm-hmm. And it's there again, kind of like the backstory is very compelling. Very compelling. The fact that this is a like Jim said earlier, that it's their motivations, like what their goal, what their end game is. And with Andrea Beaumont, aka the Phantasm, it's revenge. Mm-hmm. It's revenge, and be like, you see this, like you said earlier, this dualism of the hero, anti-hero, and their motivations and their desires, and it's really fascinating to watch. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thoroughly enjoyed the fact that Batman is kind of he's not an anti-hero, but he's, I don't know, where do you put Batman?
Well, Batman's an anti-hero.
Yeah.
Because
in a sense.
But in the animated series, they definitely make him much cleaner, much more streamlined hero. He doesn't follow the cop. I mean, he's against the cops, which makes him an anti-hero.
Yeah.
Because he's breaking the law in order to achieve his goals.
That's even mentioned in this film.
Yeah, that's why he's an anti-hero. However, he is way cleaner, way good guy in this film, and in the DC animated series and that universe.
Yeah, plus he has a tendency of not killing people.
Right.
Well, to some degree, the reason that is they're trying to mix Tim Burton's Batman with 66 Batman to make the darker Batman more palatable for kids.
Sure. And
that Batman, I think, did more with he was pretty much the deputy at that point in that show, but that's why he works more with the police, because while Gotham in this show and in the movie is still a dirty town, in which, like Perry White said in Batman versus Superman, crime in Gotham. In other news, water is wet.
Right. I think,
but it's much more cleaner than I would think in many other Batman shows.
Right, we get a lot of the comic in this in many ways because of it gets that very dark tone. But they do try to make sure it's family friendly because they want the kids to be able to watch it.
Right.
They don't want a mom going, "That's too violent," even if it's just cartoon action, because we do see that a lot. But they do a really good job of keeping it minimal. Punch kick. He doesn't shoot anybody. He doesn't.
Robots,
which is Batman.
Yeah.
He doesn't do anything too serious. He's not constantly. Not as much of the hanging people upside down and intimidating them and kicking them as you see in other stuff.
Right.
But, it's for a reason. But he's still an anti-hero, just not as much. And again, we see her character is way more that classic, I will kill people, get my stuff done, Punisher, as you said, sort of anti-hero. Though she's just doing it for one motive. It's more revenge. Where while Batman is a revenge type character, he's more about justice.
Yeah,
that's true.
In that aspect, it's not really vengeance, but it is kind of vengeance.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Anyway,
okay. My second is the music.
yes.
I absolutely love the music in this movie. And I know it's a continuation of the show, and they use many of the same musical cues.
Right.
But it just sounded so amazing in this movie, especially the Joker's theme. The two times we get it, it was like, oh, this is great. And then, of course, you get the horrible World's Fair Exposition welcome song, and I agree with the Joker. I just hate that song.
Yeah.
And the robots are ugly. But, I'm fine with him shooting them up. But yeah, it's just, the music in this, it gives you that, because the setting in Batman, while it is 80s, kind of has a 40s feel to it. And and the music kind of continues that 80s, 40s mixture.
Yeah, they try to keep it timeless. And Gotham is an old city.
Right.
I love the choral intro.
Yes.
That we get over
the addition of the Latin over the Batman
theme. It is
theme.
very nice.
Yes.
I really like, I was like, okay, I want to look this up, but I have to watch this movie. I'll do it later.
And of course, you never go bother to look
I didn't look it
lyrics up because I didn't either.
But yeah.
I'm sure it's something along the lines of "He is the vengeance, he is the night."
Did you ever hear someone did a lyrics to this song, the animated Batman theme? I don't remember who did it, but it was funny. It's fantastic. He did a couple of them. He did one for Superman and a lot of the others. But anyway, look it up if you get a chance. I can't remember the lyrics.
Anyway,
something along the lines of "I am the Batman now." Anyway, so
all right. So yeah, that was my second like. Do we have anything before we move into dislikes?
No, I don't think so.
No.
All right. So Jim, what was your first dislike of this film?
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and start with the animation. Not as a whole. The animation is good, and I think Jacob saying what he did earlier about them being told last minute or later that's why it was a change, that they weren't so what's the word? They weren't so focused OCD about everything being perfect. Right. They were expecting, we need to just keep this animated series quality, the TV show.
Yeah.
Like in the first scene, the boardroom scene where he crashes in, where they're with the counterfeit money. There's a portrait in the background, painting, whatever. It looks like a female blob, and next scene, after a couple frames, you see it different. So there are several scenes in this movie where there's some animation issues. It's not a big thing to me, but it was noticeable.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, okay, this movie's not good because it has these, but it was enough for me to go, I see that one, and I see that one. And I'm not a huge animation critic, so I know it's probably a bigger deal for y'all.
Welcome to our world.
But yeah, that's my second gripe. Y'all can talk about that too.
Well, to jump in on your first gripe, because I don't mean to jump over you, but mine is kind of connected to his.
Okay.
My first dislike is not something I think I can let the fact that this was a television show thing forgive initially, because in one of the early scenes, Bruce Wayne is having a ball or a banquet or some kind of party in stately Wayne Manor. And, of course, he's got his two girls on either side.
Of course.
One's, I think, blonde, one's a redhead. And and they're talking back and forth. I don't remember about what. And this third girl walks up, obviously of Asian descent. I'm not going to guess which. The lady of Asian descent is the one where the worst animation error, I think, in the entire movie happens. Her eyes is what I would love to know what happened to them. Because they are, the irises, not the irises, but everything but black. The pupil is black.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, were you trying to go for a more Asian eye thing and you didn't put any of the white in there, and you kind of messed up because you thought this was going to be on television and the scan lines would obscure that and no one would notice. And if that's the case, why didn't you fix it on the close-up shot? It's like, how did that get past everything? Did the film grain mess that up where it wasn't obvious, and the restored version I saw fixed it and made it obvious? I don't know. It just stood out to me in stark contrast to every other character in the movie.
Right, yeah.
It's like, what is wrong with your eyes? Are you secretly the daughter of Dr. Robotnik from the television show of the same era?
Yeah. I figured they were trying to do something with her ethnicity.
That's probably what it was, because maybe it was
failed,
and maybe it was going to be just the standard dot eye, and they were going to try everything else. But good night.
It was bad. Maybe they tried something else and then had to try to fix it, and maybe that
maybe, and it was unfixable.
Yeah.
And if they tried anything else, it would have gotten worse.
Yeah.
It just doesn't look good, and it stood out to me like a sore thumb.
Oh yeah.
So much worse than even the painting thing you brought up. Because
Yep.
admittedly, when I watch animation of this era, even theatrical, even Disney does
Yeah.
this.
Okay.
You can only draw so small
Yeah.
with hand.
Yeah.
By hand. So that kind of stuff just glosses over me.
Okay.
But that moment's like, okay, that should not have happened.
Yeah. For sure.
But anyway, yeah, that's my second dislike. First dislike.
First
Sorry.
Okay.
Jacob, what's your first dislike?
I think mine is along the same line as yours. Billy, it does have small animation errors, like anything does.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, just had few animation errors. That's about the only thing I can think of.
Okay.
All right.
So, Jim, what's your second dislike?
My second dislike is just a plot issue with the whole Beaumont family having to leave town. I say that because, okay, sure, I get the concept. They're in trouble. They owe money, and they can't
Yes.
afford to pay it back. But he says he's willing to do anything to get it taken care of, right? That's stated by him.
Yeah.
And she's just been engaged to one of the richest people in town.
Which he doesn't know.
Yes, he does. She says that, and she says he proposed.
Not before they left.
No. He says they proposed, and she says I'm pretty certain that he says that you can't. We got to go. It doesn't matter. We got to go. Not anymore. Kind of thing. Maybe he doesn't say. I mean, she already knows he already knows it's Bruce.
Yeah.
But they could have literally borrowed money from Bruce Wayne, or he would have paid it. I guarantee you, Bruce would have said, "Yeah, I'll cover it. You're fine. Don't do any illegal dealings anymore.
Yes.
Be a good citizen."
Let's be honest. Bruce Wayne would pay them back, and then the vigilante, or whatever he was calling himself at that point, would go and
Make a visit.
make a visit, and
Scare them.
all of a sudden the money's back, and
For
they don't
sure.
know why.
For sure. And I mean,
Especially if he just put on that fancy new
Cal.
new cowl that he just got.
And again, I know why they did it. They're trying to make the story happen. But it was like, this is too obvious of a thing to me. I'm like, she's engaged really quickly to Bruce Wayne.
Well,
who is rich.
Let's be
multi-billionaire.
honest. There's a lot of time compression happening, especially in those flashback scenes.
Sure.
Because if you go by what they show you, it looks like all that happened in a week.
Sure.
I don't think that happened in a week. I think that happened over at least 3 months.
Sure. And
Which
that's
is still a short amount of time, but
I
still.
mean, my point being, I mean, if they're in love to that point, I know Bruce would have done anything to keep her there. And I know she would have probably done anything to stay. And her father says he will do anything. And then they leave without considering the fact that Bruce Wayne would just hand him the money. And I mean, we could argue that maybe the amount of money that they owe, because I don't remember if they said how much it was.
They didn't, but it
could
sounded
have
astronomical.
And it could have been I mean, we don't know how much money Bruce has at the time, too. We know he has money, and I don't know how investments are going. I mean, you know, realistically, they could have had way more money, and there's no way they could have paid it back. So I don't know.
And admittedly, we don't know how much of the entire Wayne estate Bruce has access to.
Yeah, at this point, he still may be...
There could be some retainer. Wait until he's reached a certain age.
Yeah, be tied up in medical stuff or in these other in projects. I'm sure it's harder for him to pull out $1 billion at one point than just like anyone else. But and again, this is just because I had to think of some things I didn't like about this movie,
which is why we do this.
I had one more if we needed it, but it was just as nitpicky. So yeah, you're fine. That's mine.
Your second dislike, Jacob.
My second dislike, I really didn't have one.
Sorry, that's probably way too loud. I didn't expect that at all.
Well, this is admittedly we don't require both. If you can't come up with something. I mean, admittedly, we back on the Totoro episode, we just completely said there's nothing wrong with this.
Yeah,
but you really don't have anything, not even a silly little nitpick to round you out.
Not that I can recall.
Okay, well then I'll go into my silly little nitpick. It's just not really a nitpick. It's a plot confusion on my part, and I'll fully admit I may have missed where they explained this, or maybe I do know where they explained it, but it didn't jive with me too well. The first death we see in here, which is Chucky Soul
Yeah.
is before she arrives in town. Did she leave and come back? How did that work? I mean, it's a. I know to some
Maybe
degree
she
it was,
arrived early.
well, it's. They do say in the film that was she arrived later in order to draw the limelight or whatever away from it being her.
Right.
Is what they say, but at the same time, it's like, but she still came to Gotham, killed this dude, and then left without anyone noticing her, just so she can come back in a plane later on.
Well, she's got fancy smoke clouds and stuff.
Yeah.
She can.
Yes, but I have a feeling that much like Mysterio's fancy smoke clouds,
Sure.
they
Yeah.
don't really work like they look like they work.
That's true. It's that often actually happens. People, when they're trying to get away with something, they'll plan it, say they're out of town, they'll have the first thing happen, and then they'll try to get the eyes off of them to begin with.
Well,
have
and
a
don't get me wrong.
semi-alibi.
Yeah, that's what criminals do all the time.
It makes sense. It's just the way they showed it.
Yeah.
Kind of made me go for because I saw this movie 30 years ago and only saw it once. I knew who she was from the beginning.
Right.
I find it interesting that you can kind of see the female shape in the Phantasm himself.
I never noticed that. But
You can kind of see it if you kind of take the. I don't want to say take the cape off, but you kind of ignore the cape part of it.
Sure.
You can kind of see the
silhouette. Okay.
That is femininely shaped.
All right.
So that's cool that they do that, but at the same time, I was going, well, is it not her? Because I thought it was going to be her.
Yeah.
And of course, it is her, but
I
it was like, I know you're trying to throw stuff off, but at the same time, this feels like you drew the Phantasm in this spot, you drew her coming into town, and decided no one's going to know.
Well, and I think they often try to do that. It's an animated movie, and the plot is not always going to be perfect.
Yeah. Admittedly, this is a nitpick.
And
so.
I will tell you, I watched it a long time ago, and I rewatched it before this. It wasn't this isn't the second time I've seen it. And I even during that movie, I went, wait a second, who's the killer?
Yeah.
And it took me a while to get there. I don't know. I mean, I would have to I'd have to go back and rewatch it and check the scene.
Yeah.
And see if there's any sort of.
But it just feels like.
Right. I mean, if they don't actually give you information, if it's a complete, faked out information.
Yeah.
It's kind of, I guess, what you'd call sloppy writing because they're cheating you out of it.
I wouldn't call it sloppy writing because, admittedly, there's no reason for them to tell us that the Phantasm even looked like they were leaving town.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I know they were trying to keep the Phantasm's identity a secret for most of the movie.
Right.
But at the same time, I'm going, if the first killing happened before she got there, and she's a wealthy socialite that a lot of people know, how did she get into town without anybody knowing?
Well, all she had to do is throw on a pair of glasses, and
True, this is the DC universe.
Well, and with females, they have a very good opportunity with all the accessories. You can throw on a bandana and a set of glasses,
and she could have had.
And unless you interact directly with someone, it's easy to. And
she could have had a wig on or something. And admittedly, if we saw evidence of that in the film.
Yeah,
this wouldn't bug me as much. But they give no evidence, really, until Joker starts talking to Batman and calling him Toots and realizing that Joker knows who it is and knows it's a woman. We get no evidence that it is her, other than if you can kind of see that it's a feminine shape. You think it's a dude for most of the movie.
Right. Yeah. Well, and again, my
and
point
the voice kind of gives
Well, yeah,
indicator.
Considering they did use the guy who voiced her father, which is who they're trying to make you think it is.
Yeah,
right.
Which that is smart. Don't get me wrong.
For sure.
But ideally, at least for me, in a mystery,
you have to have. You
should have evidence of the truth, even among the areas where you don't want people to know it.
Well, that's my point. Really, lazy writing is often one of those things that happens when someone goes, "Okay, well, I'm going to give you this really cool mystery." And then at the end, you're going to get a conclusion, but you don't actually have enough clues to
Yes.
figure it out along the way.
I guess that's what it comes
So
down
what
to is the mystery is not really that well written, even
Right.
though the story is.
Now,
Yeah.
I didn't notice an issue with the early scene, and
Yeah.
if I go back and watch it, I'm going to look
there's
at that.
probably not an issue with
And
the
I don't know if it's
other than they just skipped an evidence scene. I would
right.
like to have been
and
there.
it's fine if they don't show that scene, but if they allude to the fact that she's not actually there, sometimes that can, depending on how they do it. I didn't notice a problem,
But
but
at the same time, I would say, just as a bit of a defense, this is not a mystery story. There is a mystery to solve.
right,
Yes.
right, right.
But the focus, like I said earlier, the focus is not on finding the Phantasm. It is
right.
on Batman dealing with his past. And it just so happens his past is walking around in a skull mask
Right.
and acting like Mysterio and killing gangsters.
Yeah.
Just so happens. It's not like I said, it is a nitpick. It's just
Right.
since we have a mystery element, I would like more of the mystery to be written like a good mystery,
Yeah.
and not just kind of here's this thing.
But considering it's a 93 animated movie,
Yeah, and
for a DC
kids.
kid product, yeah, I think that's pretty good.
Yeah, it's just like I said, it is
Nitpick.
me being picnicky.
Picnicky,
Nitpicky. I guess that brings us to the end of our discussion. So we need to give our final rating for the movie. Jim, on a scale from 0 to 10, what would you rate Batman: Mask of the Phantasm?
This one's a little tough for me. I'm trying to take nostalgia out of it for the most part. It's a great movie, though. Again, like we've said all the points. There's no need for me to reiterate how great it is and why. I'm going to go ahead and just say it's an 8.5.
Jacob, what is your rating?
8.5 batarangs.
Okay, then. I am actually going to give it a 7 just because, I don't have the nostalgia with this.
Okay.
I know y'all tried to take it out, but you never really. And I do have more nostalgia for the show,
For sure.
Oh, yeah.
which I do. So I do have some. I'm just giving it a 7 simply because it's not. It's it's a good movie. It's a fun movie. I enjoyed watching the movie. It ain't great.
Right.
Yeah.
Honestly, there's some other animated stuff I think after this Batman related that I actually prefer more to this. But this is a good movie in and of itself. So
Yeah.
Well, and again, I would.
and
I
there's
would,
nothing wrong with a 7. 7s usually means it's
Absolutely.
flawed
Yeah.
but good.
I would
Yeah.
absolutely say the reason the 8.5 as opposed to the 7, and for me, is because we're talking about an early example
Yeah.
of a large project animated film
Yeah.
for the comic / cartoon industry here,
Right.
as opposed to like a modern one. If this was made in 2012, it would not be an 8.
That is true.
It wouldn't even come close. It's a good movie. It would have a good story. It's still self-contained project, but I couldn't rate it as high because I'm giving it the fact when it was made and all
Right.
that. That's why
Okay.
I rate it so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway,
So, anybody got anything else before we move on to our rolling? Before we roll along,
Don't know. So let's poof into it.
poof into it. Okay,
Poof.
it's a new one. So,
Because she vanished in the smoke. Poof. What can I say? I'm on medication.
isn't everyone on something
at this
nowadays?
point,
Pretty
Okay.
much.
okay. So, Batman: Mask of the Phantasm took up 3 spots because it was on the list
Forever.
for a while.
Forever.
In fact, it was on the list, even though we weren't doing it, all over our 4 months of theme shows.
Yeah.
So when it left, it gave us 3 holes to fill.
Okay.
You had a hole on number 4. What is taking its place?
Aladdin.
All
The
right.
original Aladdin.
Yeah.
The good Aladdin.
The good Aladdin.
Actually, the new one's not
The
bad.
new one's not bad for sure.
Yeah. Still haven't seen it. Need to watch it.
I had a hole in 1 and 6. In spot 1, I'm putting the Muppet Movie,
Ah.
and in number 6, I'm putting Wreck-It Ralph.
I'm going to wreck it.
Selection.
Yes. So I'm going to go over quickly what is on all 6 spots. Number 1, we have the Muppet Movie. Number 2, Kung Fu Panda. Number 3, Oliver and Company. Number 4, Aladdin. Number 5, The Good Dinosaur. And at number 6, Wreck-It Ralph.
To quote Billy Joel, why should I worry?
Why
I've seen
should I
all but two of those,
worry?
yeah.
Why should I care? Gonna go ahead and roll this. And it's number 6. So we're doing Wreck-It Ralph.
I'm gonna wreck it.
So look forward to that episode next week. Come, Jacob. We must prepare for next week.
Prepare for what, Drew?
The same thing we do every week, Jacob. Record a podcast.
Oh boy.
So, Jim, where can they find you?
You can find me on as Passive Creative on Facebook and Twitter, or Passive Creator on Instagram. If you're interested in the Movie of the Week podcast, you can find us at movieofthewekpodcast.transistor.fm. I also do a webcomic, the haphazardly thrown together webcomic, which is on Webtoon and on Tapas. Other than that, you can find me occasionally bugging these guys.
So where can they find you, Jacob?
They can find me on Facebook at Jacob B. Heron and Jacob's Daily Art Corner, my personal art Facebook page. On Twitter at Jacob B. Heron, on Instagram at Jacob B. Heron, and on Letterboxd at Jacob Heron. Where can they find you, Drew?
You can find me on Facebook at Drew Dodgen. You can also find my Facebook page at Drew's Photo Bin, where I upload my photography. You can also follow me on Letterboxd at GGeorge759 and Twitter at GGeorge759. Where can they find us, Jacob?
You can also visit our website, thecellcast.podbean.com, where you will find every episode we released and links to listen to it on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and Stitcher. Our RSS feed, if we aren't in your favorite podcast app directory, please share, review, and subscribe to us there and share us with your friends.
You will also find a link to our Facebook group, the Double Feature Podcast Community, where we talk about both animated and live-action movies. We share this with our other podcasts, which we do with Jacob's brother Jim, at the Movie of the Week podcast, where we talk about live-action movies. You can also email us at thecellcastpodcast@gmail.com. Also, please like our page on Facebook. We try to post about upcoming movies. If you comment on that movie's post before we record, we'll read your comments in the episode. And remember, every time we say The Cellcast, that is with a single L.
Next time on
Nice share, Ralph. As fellow bad guys, we've all felt what you're feeling, and we've come to terms with it.
Really?
Right here. I'm Zangief. I'm bad guy.
Hi, Zangief.
I relate to you, Ralph. When I hit bottom, I was crushing man's skull like sparrow egg between my thighs. And I think, why do you have to be so bad, Zangief? Why can't you be more like good guy? Then I have moment of clarity. If Zangief is good guy, who'll crush man's skull like sparrow's egg between thighs? And I say, Zangief, you are bad guy. But this does not mean you're bad guy.